Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, in honor of Her Majesty, the late Queen Elizabeth II, I have pulled out my Tea Fit for a Queen cookbook, and we are making Coronation Chicken finger rolls. Alright, if you're new here, hi, I'm Claire. Welcome, come on in, make yourselves comfortable. Obviously, I am American. However, I am a person who loves all things history, and especially I am very fascinated with the royal family of the United Kingdom. This past summer, my husband and I went and visited London, and it was so exciting and so cool, and I wanted to go so badly before we lost our queen because, you know, she was getting up there, so it wasn't a huge shock that she left us. However, I really was quite sad about it, and regardless of your feelings on the monarchy, I think we can all agree that she was an incredible human that was a witness to so many really important moments, and I do think no matter kind of what side you're on, especially as an American, it's not really up to me to have a huge opinion on the monarchy, but she definitely was a person who really did devote her life to her cause, and I do think that should be celebrated. So I actually made one other thing out of this book. I picked up this book at Westminster Abbey when we were on our trip, and I made a Bakewell tart from it last time. If you want to see that video, I will leave it down below. But today, this seemed fitting. I don't know about you, but I often use food as my language of love when it comes to grieving, when it comes to taking care of someone. Food is a way that we can do that. So I thought in my own little way of grieving this loss, we are going to make the very recipe that was served at Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. I'm going to read the little blurb here because it is quite interesting. These are for Coronation Chicken finger rolls. Originally called Chicken Elizabeth, this recipe was invented by Constance Spry and Rosemary Hume, the principals of the Cordon Bleu Cookery School, and was developed for Queen Elizabeth II's coronation in 1953. With tender chunks of chicken coated in a mildly spiced sauce with mayonnaise, the dish was deemed to have the appropriate combination of luxury and austerity at a time when the country was still experiencing post-war rationing. So yeah, the recipe is pretty simple, but it looks really delicious, and I just love the idea that we're going to eat something that was served to guests at a time that was really a special and important day for the whole people of the Commonwealth, and especially for our lovely Queen Elizabeth II. So yeah, let's get right into it. Let's make some coronation chicken. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is start with our finger rolls. So the first thing we have to do is activate our yeast. This calls for half a teaspoon of dry yeast. So I hope this is, I've chosen active dry yeast. Sounds good to me. And to that, we're going to add a tablespoon of warm water. And we're also going to throw in a pinch of sugar. And we're going to set this aside and let it activate. So actually this recipe calls for two types of flour. We have strong flour, which is bread flour in the United States. And we also have wholemeal flour, which is wheat flour in the United States. So we're using a combination of these two today. We need 150 grams of the wheat, and we only need 50 of the bread flour. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and measure my wheat flour first. Now I'm going to add my bread flour. One day I will buy a real sifter, but today's not that day, so I'm just gonna use this little strainer. It's always worked for me. It's fine. All right, now we add a good pinch of salt. It's interesting, we only needed a pinch of sugar, but a good pinch of salt. So, I don't know. That seems good. I don't know. Now I've got 15 grams of butter, which is about a tablespoon, and I am to rub it into this flour. So I'm going to use a fork and not my fingers, almost like, I don't know, like I'm making a pie crust or a short crust. All right, I don't have any big chunks in there. I think it's pretty well rubbed in. So I'm going to make a well. This does have a nice little layer of foam on it, so it is active. That's what we want. Now I've got my warm water here. We're supposed to add 125 to 150 milliliters. So this is 150, so I'm just gonna pour, I don't know, like most of it in there. And we'll give that a mix, and then we'll use that if we need to. All right, she's soft and sticky. Looks good. I'm gonna put it back in here. It does not say to grease it or anything, so I am going to just leave it. And we are going to cover it, and we're gonna let it rise for only 30 minutes, which is a pretty quick rise, honestly, for a little loaf. So yeah, we're just gonna let it sit for half an hour. All right, so it's been half an hour. It didn't get super huge, but you know, this is the goal. And now we're going to shape it into a finger roll. Now, when my husband heard that I was making Coronation Chicken finger rolls, he thought that it meant that there would be chicken fingers. And I'm like, honey, this was from 1953. They did not have chicken fingers in England. What it means by a finger roll is like a slider, like a finger sandwich. It's a slider sized sandwich. So in case you also were hoping for a chicken finger, that's not happening. Cut it into half and then cut it into thirds. And to shape them, how I have always done rolls in the past is kind of like pushing it on itself to create some tension on the top. All right, so that one's a little big, but it'll be fine. All right, so I'm just going to cover them loosely so they don't get really dry on the top, but it's not super important to cover it like tightly. And now we're gonna leave these for another half an hour to do their second prove. All right, it's been half an hour. They haven't really grown like all that much. But because, here, I'll show you the picture a little closer. It really looks like they've got these little slices on the top. And it also looks like they were dusted with a little bit of flour. So, even though the instructions don't say that specifically, I'm gonna do it because I want it to look like the photo. Just give them a little dusting. All right, so I have my oven preheated to 375 Fahrenheit, 190 Celsius, as the book says. And I'm going to throw these in for 15 to 20 minutes. We'll start with 15 and we'll see how we go from there. Okay, while that's cooking, we're gonna go ahead and make the filling for our sandwiches. It calls for 100 grams of roasted chicken. So I went and got a rotisserie chicken. It seemed like the perfect sort of thing because I didn't feel like roasting a whole chicken today. We also have salt and pepper. We have some crème fraiche, which I had to go to a special store to get. But if you don't have this available to you, you can use sour cream. I also have some curry powder, mayonnaise, and the recipe called for mango chutney. However, what I had available is this mango salsa. Salsa and chutney is very similar. This is a little bit maybe chunkier than a chutney. However, it's going to work just fine for what we're doing. All right, I am going to cut some of this chicken and measure it. Obviously, this makes 6 little sliders, so you don't actually need that much chicken. But it also does make sense knowing that there was still rationing at this time period, that they would want smaller amounts of meat, especially. And wow, 100 grams of chicken puts us at just 1 chicken breast from this rotisserie chicken, so that's pretty interesting. And this does need to also be shredded. Next, this recipe is asking me to do something I've never had a recipe asking me to do. We only need 1 teaspoon of curry powder, and this recipe calls for heating this in a pan for a minute or 2 until you can smell the aroma of the spices. I've never had any recipe tell me to heat up a powdered spice before. Like, there's no oil or anything like that. It's just heating up the spices, but that's what the directions say, so that's what we're gonna do. 1 teaspoon of curry powder. Toasted spices. Maybe this is something I'll start doing. I don't know. I mean, I can already smell it, so I'm not really sure how long to do this for. All right, now that our curry powder is nice and toasty and very fragrant, We're gonna toss that into our bowl. And to this, we are going to add 4 tablespoons of mayonnaise. And of course, mayo would have been an ingredient that would have been widely available at the time, so it does make sense. Next, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of the crème fraiche. I'm also going to add 1.5 tablespoons of our mango chutney. Oh, that smells so, so good. And it also calls for plenty of seasoning. So I'm just gonna throw in some pepper and a little bit of salt. All right, looks good. Gonna give this a quick stir before I add the chicken in there. And now we are going to add our chicken. It does say that if it's really, really thick, to stir in 1 or 2 teaspoons of water. However, I think this is looking like the right consistency. All right, and the last ingredient in this recipe is watercress. However, I could not find any, and I went to a couple different places. So the best substitute I could find is arugula, which will definitely still give us the same vibe. So I'm just gonna wash this and remove some of the leaves to top our little finger rolls. All right, checking in on our little rolls. They are nice and golden on the bottom, but I'm gonna say they need 2 more minutes. All right, these are nice and hot and perfectly cooked. I'm going to just put them on a rack here to cool down. All right, now it is time to plate. So we're just gonna cut our rolls open. It's a bit of a dense bread, but like, I'm here for it. We're gonna take 1 little scoop of our chicken. Okay, that looks exactly like the picture. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, they turned out so pretty. And they look just like the photo. I'm so happy with it. Seriously, these are so cute and so like simple actually. I mean, I bet in like a large, display or whatever that they do look quite pretty, but they are quite simple and basic at the same time, which I think is really telling of the time period. And yeah, last thing we gotta do definitely is give one a bite. Just going to pretend that I am at Queen Elizabeth II's coronation right now. It's so good. Oh my gosh. The bitterness of the greens just perfectly balances the sort of like fatty, indulgent rotisserie style chicken with all that mayo in it. It's so good. Oh my gosh. And honestly, I thought it would be like too mild, but I really love that curry powder I have, and it is just full of flavor. The bread sort of balances a little bit of that spice. It is kind of spicy. This is not what I would have expected, and I'm actually like really impressed. I think that maybe next time around, I would make this totally again. I just probably wouldn't make my own bread unless I just had the time. This would be super good in a wrap. It would be good like, I don't know, like on a salad. Like there are a lot of applications for this chicken. It's really good. And there you have it, Coronation Chicken finger rolls, also known as Chicken Elizabeth. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give this a try if it sounds good to you. I think that food is a great way to honor people, and I'm very happy that I got to share this with you guys today. Leave me a comment down below. What did you think of this? Will you try it? I think you should. It's really good. Of course, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!